Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 26 years old, and I live in Dallas, Texas, USA. Today, I want to share a story that sounds almost unbelievable, but according to the people involved, it actually happened. It's a story about entitlement, intimidation, and some of the fastest karma I've ever heard of. The story begins with my father, who had recently started working as an assistant principal at a new high school. It was his first year there, and compared to his previous school, this place felt like paradise. His old school was overcrowded, plagued by drugs, and constantly dealing with disciplinary issues. Fights broke out almost every week, and my father spent much of his time suspending students. At his new school, however, things were completely different. The students were generally respectful, serious incidents were rare, and the school maintained a positive atmosphere. In fact, during the entire school year, there had only been one notable incident involving a special needs student and another incident that would soon become the talk of the entire district. It all started one afternoon when a school bus driver was dropping students off at their homes. No one knows exactly what happened, but it was believed that either the driver accidentally bumped into a student we'll call entitled girl, or he corrected her after she said something inappropriate. Whatever the reason, the girl became furious. As soon as she got home, she sent a message to her mother, complaining about the driver. Moments later, entitled mother stormed out of the house and began yelling at the bus driver. The driver didn't argue. He simply drove away, hoping the situation would end there. Unfortunately, it was only the beginning. Moments later, entitled mother stormed out of the house and began yelling at the bus driver. The driver didn't argue. He simply drove away, hoping the situation would end there. Unfortunately, it was only the beginning. The following morning, the bus driver arrived at the same house to pick up entitled girl. However, when he pulled into the driveway, something immediately seemed strange. The student wasn't outside waiting for the bus. Instead, standing there were entitled mother, entitled brother, and entitled sister. The brother was approximately 22 years old, and the sister was attending college. Both were adults. The bus driver opened the door and politely asked where entitled girl was. Before he could say another word, all three adults stepped onto the school bus. What happened next shocked everyone on board. The mother, brother, and sister began screaming at the driver. They hurled insults, shouted threats, and verbally attacked him in front of dozens of students. Some of the children were terrified. Others sat frozen in their seats, unsure of what was going to happen next. The driver remained calm, but it was clear he was shaken by the confrontation. After several minutes, the three adults finally got off the bus. The moment they stepped outside, the driver immediately drove away and focused on getting the students safely to school. What the entitled family failed to realize was that every school bus in the district was equipped with multiple high-definition cameras and audio recording systems. Every word they said, every threat they made, and every action they took had been recorded. When the driver arrived at school, he went straight to the front office and reported the incident. My father was furious. After reviewing the footage, he immediately contacted the school's resource officer, who then involved local law enforcement. The evidence was overwhelming. Entitled mother was arrested and charged with multiple offenses, including harassment, intimidation, and trespassing. The school's principal trusted my father's judgment completely and allowed him to oversee much of the response. As a result, several actions were taken immediately. Entitled girl was reassigned to a different bus route. Entitled mother, entitled brother, and entitled sister were permanently banned from school property. The bus driver was also granted a month of paid leave to recover from the traumatic experience. Meanwhile, investigators collected statements from students who had witnessed the incident. Working alongside the school district's attorney, officials decided to pursue charges against entitled mother and entitled brother. An additional complication soon emerged. Entitled brother was already serving a probationary period for a previous offense, meaning any new legal trouble could have serious consequences. When the trial finally arrived, most people expected a relatively minor punishment. Many assumed entitled mother might receive a small fine or perhaps a few days in jail. However, the judge had a very different opinion. After reviewing the evidence and hearing the testimony, the judge explained that entitled mother had threatened a public employee, endangered children, and unlawfully entered school property. He emphasized that her actions were completely unacceptable. Then he announced the sentence: 30 days in jail. The courtroom fell silent. My father and the principal could hardly believe it. They had expected a much lighter punishment. But the biggest surprise was still ahead. Entitled brother was scheduled to appear in court immediately after his mother's hearing. Yet, when his case was called, he was nowhere to be found. He had skipped his trial. The judge was furious. Without hesitation, he issued a bench warrant for entitled brother's arrest. The following day, police located him at his mother's home and took him into custody. When he finally appeared before the judge, the consequences were severe. Because he had violated probation, failed to appear in court, and participated in the bus incident, the judge imposed a much harsher sentence: 1 full year in prison. The courtroom was stunned. In a matter of weeks, a family that believed they could intimidate a bus driver without consequences had completely destroyed their own future. Entitled mother went to jail. Entitled brother went to prison. Entitled sister was banned from school property. Entitled girl eventually transferred to another school. As for the bus driver, he returned to work and continued safely transporting students. The school returned to normal, and the story became legendary among staff members and local residents. To this day, my father still tells this story whenever people ask him about the most unbelievable incident of his career. For him, it serves as a reminder that actions have consequences, and that sometimes karma arrives much faster than anyone expects. And honestly, if that's not instant karma, I don't know what is.